Okay, quick question. How many of you noticed this Christmas pudding in the background of some of my videos recently? You're not getting any context for that one. Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons. Today's the 30th of April, it's the last day of VEDA. What? But it just started, how could it be over already? I know. And also do pardon the constant jiggling of the camera, it's because, again, I'm using this sideways recording setup, so the camera's kind of sitting on my bed, and I'm also sitting on my bed and we're facing sideways, and if the occasional jiggle happens, then that's why. Now, today's Saturday, so I need to deliver another Shower Thought Saturday, another impassioned speech about something, I don't know what, and it just goes to show, you can't force these deep thoughts, because I put out on Twitter earlier today saying that, you know, I have no idea what to talk about, I'll take suggestions, and a common thread that I saw in the responses to that, both on Twitter and elsewhere, so through Facebook, through Skype, whatever, are people saying, I have these ideas, but I don't know if they're good enough because I don't know if they're your sort of thing. And so there's this regular theme of, I don't know what to suggest to you because I don't know if it's good enough. And I've been having the same thoughts myself. I've been thinking I could talk about this, that, or that, and, you know, would it be good enough? Does it merit a full 10-minute discussion video? And the answer is probably no. But then again, I suppose you could say the same about the other stuff that I've spoken about in the Saturday videos of this year's VEDA. Ultimately, and it did take me until 7:30 in the evening, which was about 5 minutes ago, to actually finally come up with something to talk about for this, because I wouldn't want to fall at the final hurdle of VEDA this year. I mean, technically, if you include the intro video, I have done 30 consecutive days of content already, but including this, every day of April, done, sorted, yes, yum. I've forgotten how I started that sentence. God fucking damn it. The point is, it's the last day of VEDA, and I still want to put something out here, but it's a Saturday, and so I need to deliver an appropriate shower thought Saturday. I need to have a decent shower thought to discuss. But you can't just will these things into existence. You can't just steal someone else's, because you may not present the idea with enough heart to be able to talk about it for however long amount of time. And don't worry, this week's shower thought isn't the philosophy of not being able to have shower thoughts. What I'm actually going to be thinking about is, I suppose, a type of philosophy. Don't click away, just hear me out. A type of philosophy that I've had rattling around in my head for, I want to say, the past couple of years. And I would say that it's very applicable to me, I would say as a millennial, but I was actually born in the 90s. But I'm not really sure how you define millennial. Someone who's around my age in the 2000s, I suppose, or people who were born in the 2000s, I don't know. The point is, I'm lumped in with that generation being, as I was, a 90s baby. What I'm going to talk about is particularly relevant to us as a generation, but it's not unapplicable to everyone else as well. And it's the idea of something being real enough. And this is something that I've found myself having profound thoughts about every now and then. And the reason why I say that it's so relevant to millennials is this, I wouldn't say it's a modern construct, but the idea of fandoms. You know how nowadays we have the likes of the Eurovision fandom and the sports fans and music fans and film goers, super hulock, that sort of stuff. And what kind of triggered this thought in my head as well is there's been a whole spate of celebrity deaths just in the first 4 months of this year, the most recent being the likes of Prince. Although I never had any personal connection to him, so obviously it's sad that someone died, but it doesn't mean quite as much to me as it would to someone else. But I think people have done videos about this already, the idea of why do we mourn celebrity deaths? Why do we get sad about people we've never met? And I did see one suggestion that we may not have known these people, but they helped them to know ourselves, and that ties in with what I'm thinking about here. You may not have known that person, you know, let's use Prince as the example here. You may not have known Prince in person, you may not have had a real relationship with him, but you may have had a real enough relationship with him where, yeah, you may not have known him personally, but you may have enjoyed his music, and his music may have helped you discover something about yourself, or something like that, and that applies to other things as well. You know, my tenacious grasp on Eurovision, it's something that I enjoy. It's something that I've yet to attend in person, but that's going to change in about 2 weeks' time. You know, it's a world that I'm not naturally a part of, but that I'm finding my way into anyway, and so why should I be so obsessed with it if the outcome doesn't affect my life at all? Because my relationship with it is real enough. And the same goes for people who are fans of football and other sporting events. Why should you care so much if the outcome of the game isn't going to dictate the rest of your life? Well, if it matters to the players, then it matters to you because your connection to them is real enough. I'm aware that these aren't the best examples of what I'm trying to say here. The main connection that I'm thinking of is this supposed tendency of the millennial generation to bury our heads in the sand with works of fiction and the like, rather than face actual real-world problems. And the reason why we do that is because these fictional worlds may not really exist. They may not be real, but they're real enough for us because they have an emotional impact on us. And so that goes for books and films and TV shows and all that stuff. And of course, music and that sort of thing. If there's a song that tells a story of, oh, you're a nice person, you're all right the way you are. Of course, the singer isn't actually saying that to you in person. It's not a real conversation you're having, but it's real enough because you can take from it what you need to hear, and that can help you grow spiritually as a person. And the camera is jiggling like crazy. Sort of an extended application of this is I'm hoping that it applies to the relationship that we have as a content provider and as a viewer, because 99% of people who watch this video probably won't know me in person, and maybe 1 or 2% of those may be people who know me through the internet, people who have watched other videos of mine, people who have chatted with me on streams and that sort of thing. And of course I appreciate all of you, but for that remaining 97-98%, these are people who have no idea who I am, and yet I'd like to think that my words and what I do in my videos and that sort of thing strike a chord with them. Well, to an extent, I think they do, considering that some people can get so easily offended by my reviews, because I may not be a real person in the room with them, but I'm real enough for them to be offended by what I have to say, or for them to feel vindicated by what I have to say. People who approve of what I have to say, because my opinion may not matter to them in any tangible form, but I'm real enough to them. Our relationship as a viewer and a content provider is real enough for it to matter to them. And in that regard, that's quite touching. And so that is kind of why, for example, if someone leaves a nasty comment on one of my videos, I just laugh. Because, I mean, okay, you were offended by my video. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but thanks for the view anyway. And I don't want to sound selfish about that, it's easier to brush aside the negatives because there are so many people who actually do take something positive from the videos that I make. My key example here is my review of the Serbian song this year. The number of comments I've seen on that video saying, wow, thanks Tess, this is such an insightful review. I listened to the song again and now I feel differently about it. Now I see this extra level of meaning in it that I didn't see before. That sort of thing. What I have to say doesn't necessarily, in the grand scheme of things, I'm just this random guy talking at a camera in his bedroom for about 10 minutes. And even then, I'm a speck of dust on a wet rock spinning around a giant ball of fire in space. I'm just a ghost driving a skeleton wearing a suit of armor made of meat. In the grand scheme of things, perhaps my relationship with the world isn't real enough to matter, but it is real enough for other people to take something away from it. And I know I'm getting stupidly philosophical here. Maybe I've belabored the point. Maybe I've completely swerved away from what I'm trying to say. The point I'm trying to drive at is, it's okay to take heart in videos like mine and to get lost in video games, in films, in music, in books, and all of this other media. That's completely fine. Just because it's not something that really happened, it's still real enough for you to have an emotional response, to have a genuine connection with the characters, the events, the plot, the location, the music, anything. If it makes you have a genuine emotional response, then I dare say it's real enough. It doesn't matter if it actually happens. It doesn't matter if it's scripted, if it's a work of fiction, or if it is just some asshole in a top hat talking at a camera. It's real enough for you to feel. Therefore, your feelings are justified because it's real enough. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I know I'm waffling and it is probably sounding stupidly pretentious or just stupidly cannabis flavored, even though I don't do drugs. I don't know. Maybe this is just some inane rambling, but if you had any response to it whatsoever, I've made some form of an impact, and therefore I'm real enough for this video to validate. Okay, maybe that's not quite what I'm trying to say with this. I'm not saying everything is justified because it's real. I just mean, if someone tries to shame you for liking something that you don't have a tangible connection with, so the likes of Eurovision, or the works of fiction, or YouTubers, that sort of thing, Yeah, maybe your relationship with the thing in question, or the world in question, or the characters, or whatever, maybe that's not a real thing you can slap onto a table and say, look at this, I'm justified. It's still real enough. In short, what I'm trying to say is smash the notion that if it's not a real thing, you can't justify having an emotional response through it. I feel like I've really belabored the point. Get into the mindset of, don't think of it as real, think of it as real enough, and then everything will fall into place, I suppose. I'm fairly confident that this video has come out sounding like me just rambling about nothing for about 12 minutes, but it is a philosophy that I have in my head, and it's not me trying to justify every little decision that I make. It's just something that makes me feel a little bit more sound when it comes to thinking of, oh, this book made me feel, but it's just words printed on a piece of paper, and oh, the experiences of these characters aren't realistic, therefore I can't justify taking any life lessons or experience from it because it's not real. Well, it's real enough, and that counts. And I'm sure at this point I'm going to start repeating myself, but I'm sure you get the point. It's a philosophy, it's a mindset, it's a shower thought. Therefore, video. So, seems a bit of a strange thing to end this month on, but I have been and will continue to be Tessellating Hexagons. I thank you most profoundly for watching this video, and any others of mine that you may happen to have watched or will watch in the future. And on that note, I will see you in whichever video of mine you may happen to choose to watch next, you lovely people. I will see you there and then.